path? Are you talking about education or? Oh, physical training.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can you please stand?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And because everybody over here has something going on tonight, sorry,
That's okay.
I'm going to let him go first.
Yes.
Mr. Renard.
This is my final meeting, so just want to express my gratitude for you allowing me to address you every month with what's happening with staff. So I want to pass on a few things. Kathy Olson, our 6th grade teacher in Charlestown, I believe, says that the 6th grade social studies classes had attorney Dan Stevens. I believe that's Mrs. Stevens' son.
Yes, it is.
Distinguished Fall Mountain grad. He came in to speak to the class about how laws are made and why we have laws and the structure of our legal system. And Mr. Stevens, who grew up in Walpole, is a 1997 graduate of Fall Mountain National High School. The 6th graders also took a field trip to the Monchar Museum. This trip was awarded to the science teacher, Caitlin Wright, because she had her classes participate in a science and engineering survey earlier. And on June 1st, the 6th graders are making their annual trip to St. Gaudens National Historic Site in Cornish, New Hampshire. And they'll have a guided tour of the grounds, learn about the life and artwork of Augustus St. Gaudens, and hike on the nature trails that are part of the National Park Service site. At the high school today, we had Naviance training for the first time for our staff. It was introduced to us by the people who have had some training from special ed and guidance. You can really kind of see the wheels turning with all the possibilities. Looks like a very powerful tool that's going to be at their fingertips to help our students in the future. Our PACE training wrapped up last week for the year. I think one of the really interesting and important things that took place was not just during the training, but last week during our kneecap tests, Kristen came over and took the opportunity to talk to many of our staff who aren't trained in PACE to really explain the connection between performance assessments and all the personalized learning programs that we've been working on for the last couple of years. And a lot of people who really didn't know much about PACE understand it a lot better now, and I think that's going to really help us for the future in terms of implementing and getting everybody on board in implementing PACE. And we're a week and a half away from final exams, so it's unbelievable. We're just about at the end. So that's it.
Great. That was easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, and we're going to miss you.
Thanks. I'm going to miss a lot of things. Some things I won't.
Some things you won't.
He's not going to miss us.
I was going to say another Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Okay, next, approval of minutes. Can I get a motion for the minutes for Monday, May 9th, 2016 public session?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion, changes? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I get a motion for the minutes for Monday, May 9th, 2016 non-public session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, changes? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, recognition of visitors and public input. Do we have any?
I just have a quick.
Sure.
And instead of giving it to Bill, I figured I would just let you know. The Charlestown Middle School this year chose community as our theme, which evolved into patriotism, service, and soldiers. And so we've done a year-long service learning on that. During advisory, we looked at the Medal of Honor recipients and went over that. In November and December, our 6th graders did an essay contest on patriotism. We brought military recruiters in to talk to the kids at Career Day. We, in December, collected items that went out to Sullivan County Cares for Our Troops, which is an organization that sends things to Iraq and Afghanistan. We had Drill Sergeant Kyle come in and talk to students who are interested in military life. Mr. Stevens set up for students to learn about flag etiquette, and they become our flag people. This month, the Rotary Essay Contest is Service About Himself, which Karen Sheehan heads up, and that's sort of all in this whole theme of community. Just to let you know that we're rounding out our year with a walkathon on June 6th, and that is to benefit Warriors at 45 North, which is is an organization in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, and we liked it because it was 98% goes right directly to the soldiers. We really don't like, we were looking at ratios, of cost, and it's an approved nonprofit, and so we're going to do on June 6th, we're walking from CMS to the VFW for a water break, and then on to Patch Park for our cookout, and then back, and we're going to raise money for this organization. If you have time on June 6th, it's going to be quite a sight because we have gotten t-shirts for everyone that says CMS supports our troops, and they will be red, white, and blue. I don't know which grade gets which, but 6th grade and 7th grade and 8th grade will have a color scheme. So I think we'll be quite a sight. So you're welcome to join us. And if you want to sponsor anybody, let me know.
Thank you. Okay, so any more?
As you know, we're moving away from No Child Left Behind to ESSA, which stands for Every Student Succeed Act. And with that, there's been a number of workshops to try to make sure that everybody's on board with the changes of the new law. One that I went to the other day was on the McKinney-Vento Act, which is basically our Homes Act. And with that, they are now new regulations, new parameters. And this summer, I hope to revise the whole procedures and programs that we have and do training next year with all the staff so we have a better understanding and are better able to document students that may be in our district in our homes. With that being said, they also talked about the need for documentation, but also the need to outreach. Many students, many parents will not come into the districts to tell you their situation. And we are under an obligation starting next year, probably around December, I believe, to make sure that we go out and really look for students and provide that kind of assistance. Right now, we do a great job in our district. Our guidance counselors and our secretaries have been trained in our McKinney-Vento Act. We provide the services that we need to provide, but we need to look at this even more because this is something that will be something that we need to report to the State Department about. The other thing that I'd like to tell you about is tomorrow at Elstead, and I invite everyone to come. We have the Commissioner of Education coming to visit our school and to celebrate the success of Elstead Primary School. It will start with a meeting in my office at 8:30 to about 9:15, and then we're going to visit Elstead Primary School, where the teachers have prepared a number of STEM activities. I was there the other day, and the students are just so excited about it. So if you have the opportunity, please do come and visit. And if not, I will have pictures that I'll share with you the next time I see you. We also, tonight is a very special night. I wanted to introduce Richard Town, who will be, starting July 1st, our new high school principal. Richard, I have sent you his bio, and I'm sure you had a chance to read it. We will be doing more public relations. We hope to take a picture tonight and put it in the newspaper, and also to do an open house for him sometime this summer before school starts. So, welcome on board.
Thank you.
That's it for mine.
Old business, committee reports. Do you have any committee reports right now?
Facilities met prior to the meeting. We just discussed a few things that we're going to talk more at the next board meeting.
Great.
I had meant to write something up, and I didn't have time to, but I guess I will just share that policy has wrapped up for the year. And what you have on the agenda tonight will be the last of the policies that we can get through the first and second readings before we adjourn for the summer. That's the plan. There are some things, I don't want to say that they're missing. We do do plan to start the fall off addressing things like Norcan. We talked about that at the last meeting. That's on the short list for the fall. And there's a whole set of policies around competencies and graduation requirements that we're going to be working on. I don't expect that for September, but I do expect that to be a priority for the first part of next year. If there's anything else that you folks want to see made a priority, I'd love to address it. There's just so much on the plate these days. It just keeps, concrete keeps changing it, we have to keep addressing it, so that's where we're at. Oh, and I'm sure that the whole transgender issue that we keep hearing about is something that we will address as well, but it's not something we wanted to jump right into. There's still so much coming in from Concord and Washington and what have you, that we want the dust to settle so we can make intelligent decisions about how to craft good policy. So.
I was hoping to see the Narcan issue move forward before the end of the year. I believe it's this Saturday or next Saturday, Walpole's holding an event. It's an anonymous event where people can attend, receive training in CPR Narcan, and then leave with Narcan. So we're going to have potential students in our school with Narcan on them. So I really think it's possible.
Yes, Jane? Do you know who's sponsoring that in Walpole?
I don't. It was on the, I saw it on the Connecticut River Valley Facebook page, is where I saw it announced. But it's at the Walpole Fire Station.
Well, we certainly can, if the board wants us to, address that as a separate policy issue, and we can do it relatively quickly. But we don't have 2 meetings to get a first and second reading done before we end. So I guess a strong pull from the board, we can, there's nothing saying we can't do our first reading at our next meeting and the second reading, first meeting in August, and then we're up and running a week after school starts. I didn't think it was good practice, and I don't think it is as a rule, to wait several months between readings of policy, but it's up to the board.
Well, but we are planning on hopefully having some other meetings if we need to, so we wouldn't have to wait that long. We could have a meeting.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying? I don't want to,
I just knew we hadn't set anything in stone, and I didn't want to be running policy and bringing policy to the board that we weren't going to be able to finish up before.
No, I don't think the board is opposed to having another meeting possibly more towards the end of June to get that tied up. You know, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I'm not opposed to that. I have to agree with him that if that is going to be happening, I think we need to get something like that on the books because I think it's important.
Well, we have a sample policy from the Hampshire School Board. And Lori and Misty, I think we should probably at least call together the nurses and do at least a meeting to see if we can bring, I know that we can't bring something forward to the next board meeting. That's what the board wants to see happen.
And if you can't, then you'll, but I do think that we could get together.
The policy I saw from the Hampshire School Board in my mind was 80% ready. There were just a couple of questions I thought we needed to hammer out before we brought it to the board. And mostly questions about funding and finance and who's responsible for what and where it's going to be kept, and who gets trained, and those kinds of questions, which isn't necessarily addressed in the policy, but I think we need to have a good handle on that before we bring this forward.
Our nurses are trained. They already are?
Not all of them, I don't. Right, but.
So is the high school. High school's trained.
We had a monthly discussion at our policy committee. What we can do is we can call a monthly policy committee meeting, and at the next board meeting, on June 13th,
Yeah.
we'll have that proposal.
Yeah. But I think that's the question. I think we have 2 nurses in the district that are trained. And I think, in my mind, some of the questions that come up is, do you want it in all the buildings? Do you just want it on the people who are certified to use it? Do you want it someone certified to administer during, you know, school-sponsored events, or is it only during school hours, or, it's those kinds of questions that I think we need to, I need to ask the nurses and get some input what good policy is going to be on that kind of thing. So,
But I'd say at most events here at the high school, as far as athletics go, we have somebody on staff, not our staff, but it's here at every high school athletic event that would be trained.
but are they already, or do they need to? You know
Well, they're
what I'm
from the
saying?
Cheshire Medical, I'm not sure, I'd have to ask that question.
Right, right. But if they're not, is it our expectation that we would require such a thing? I don't know, and just those are kind of the questions that we need to kind of flesh out and see what those pieces are. Because my understanding is that or my gut feeling is that we all think that if there was going to be a need, it would probably be with high school students. But I think what I'm hearing from the people I talk to is that there's more concern that it's the parents of kids at elementary school level. It's the target group seems to be the 19 to 29 age group. They're the ones with 4, 5, 6-year-olds in the primary schools. Is it our purpose to save the life of a parent who collapses during a Christmas concert? Or is it, see what I'm saying? So those are kinds of the questions that we're trying to figure out where our responsibility is.
My original concern would be you rushing the policy to meet deadline, which I don't understand. And I'd rather see you take the time to get the policy right. I think you're more on your question than maybe any person. So I yield to you knowing your own policy, you run into this problem. Don't let the time frame dictate it. I'd rather see you spend the time to get it right.
I agree, but we have some good people who've been to trainings. So I think they have a good handle on what the answers to those questions are. They're just the questions that I had. You know, as I looked at it, the reason we brought these forward is that these are policies, and they're IT policies we've been working on for several months, that we want to have ready to go in the handbook for the fall. So that was why the push to bring these to the board. The NORCAN policy, when it comes forward, won't go in the handbook. It will just be the way we do business. So in my mind, that could happen September 1, and we're still good for next year. So that was the reason we hadn't pushed that one forward, but like I said, I've been thinking about this for a few weeks now, and I think a lot of people on policy have that. So I think we've got the questions, and I think we've got the people with the answers, and we just need to pull it together. Certainly, I think it's rushed, we won't bring it forward, but it's not something we haven't been thinking about.
In the discussion, what would have been the concerns for these what-if scenarios? As you explain, the parent of a primary school child, if they're shooting up and are at risk for overdosing at a Christmas concert, perhaps we're not asking the right question. So just, the what-ifs have been very vague, and now we're looking for examples that maybe what is the situation that would create this type of event, and how better than snapping Narcan up someone's nose to save them, how could we take a better tack so that so that the school?
Well, I think on a separate note, we have, the superintendent has started working with some school staff and the local police chiefs to address kind of the greater drug issue in the community. And it's something that I've been participating in the meetings as well, and I've been asking the questions because given some of the questions we just came through our budget process with about what especially in Charlestown, what the at-risk behavior can be, there were numbers that I still can't wrap my mind around them. And I don't think that it's the school's responsibility to try to throw dollars at the town's problems. But I do think that if the school is really the source of education, then we need to start those conversations and educate and bring all the players to the table and have those conversations. Which is why, the question comes up, who is really most at risk? And if you look at some of the data that's out there, it's not, generally it's not teenagers. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not at risk, but it's like, if you look at the graph, it really seems to spike in that 19 to 29 age group, I think, which are not kids in our building, but they are parents who are in our building. Again, I don't know that it's necessarily a huge risk, but is it our responsibility? I certainly wouldn't want to have something like that happen at a school-sponsored function, whether it's a concert or play or what have you, or even junior in high school. There's siblings who are in their 20s who could come back and watch a basketball game and have a problem here. I think we're all clear, this is how we want to help kids, and we certainly would want to make sure this was in place for kids, but our question really is for the greater community.
I think you're focusing too much on the heroin issue. This is not just a heroin issue. This is an issue with opiates in general,
Right.
which crosses all socioeconomic and hate boundaries. It's not just somebody shooting up during a Christmas concert. It's somebody that took 3 too many pills on their way to the concert.
Yeah.
They sit there, and they overdose. They could be in their 50s or 60s. They could be in their teens. It's across the board. The question is, when that happens, do we want to be able to do something about that? Or do we want to stand by and watch that person laying there not breathing, waiting for the intensive care?
And I think the question then, and I agree with you, and I wasn't trying to dismiss all the age groups, but I think you're right. And so, in effect, the Norcan is an insurance policy. So, do we want to insure everybody who steps foot in our building every hour that they're in the building, in all 11 buildings?
The biggest thing we gotta be careful too, and this is where we gotta go back to our attorneys and ask it, is liability. If we help one, not another, or something happen, you gotta be very careful. First and foremost, our job is the students. That's who we are responsible for, our children in our district. People on school premise we're responsible for, but it's not the same. I don't believe it's the same level of responsibility, but I get what we're saying.
Well, I'm just saying, this looks a whole lot different if you want to make sure that all your nurses are trained and you've got a nurse in the building and we're responsible for it during school hours. That's one way to handle this. But if it really is, a discussion that we have to say, we really want.
The movement nationwide is to get out of the medical providers and put it into the layperson. So I don't understand, as a paramedic, why it only has to be a school nurse that gets trained to do this.
Maybe it doesn't, but that then becomes the question, who is required to? Because there are other teachers who are first aid certified, and in fact, New Hampshire School Board recommends that the Norcan policy be an addendum to our first aid policy. The idea being that anybody who's trained and certified to give an EpiPen to a student who's been de-stung should be able to do a Norcan administration. And if that's truly the case, then we just need to figure that out and decide how we want to. Like I said, I've got some questions. I don't think there's too many questions that we can't get them answered by the staff that we already have trained to do it. But
When we met at the policy committee, we actually saw this as a two-step approach. One is we need to have the conversations, we need to develop that policy and understanding within our community. But secondly, we need to develop procedures and guidelines for staff. And that really we have not had enough conversations along those lines. And that's something that we really need to do. And we need professional consultants to work with us to make sure that we are doing the right thing. What we have started to do with the drug committee, we have talked to our police chiefs in town. We have sent people to the Governor's Commission on Drugs, a workshop that happened 2 weeks ago. We're looking at a curriculum here in the high school. This is a concern that we all have, but we want to make sure that we get our facts, our data, and we do it strategically to really plan to the best of our students. So, a policy, I think we can come up with a policy because we've done a considerable amount of work on that. But then we really need a procedure on how that policy is going to go forward. And that I think we need a little bit more time to do.
Got any other committee reports? moving on to new business, personnel. Can I get a motion for the resignations? John, would you please read those resignations, please? Thank you.
We're doing retirements separate.
Yes, they're separate, they're just resignations.
I move that we accept the resignation of Cindy Allen, graphics art teacher, Falmouth Regional High School. Elaine Pestle, secretary at Sarah Porter. Joan Sweat, paraprofessional, Walpole Primary School. Stephanie Fuller, school counselor, Walpole Primary School, North Walpole School. Cheryl Pierce, paraprofessional, at work. And that's it.
So she was in retirement, so we're doing both at the same time. Is she retired?
No.
No, she's just resignation, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was in charge. Okay, can we get a second? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next, can I get a motion for the retirements?
Make a motion that we accept the retirement of Peter Jones, special education teacher, JEP coordinator at Falmouth Regional High School.
Can I get a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, can I get a motion for the nominations? That's a long process.
I make a motion, we accept the nomination of David Desilets, assistant middle school track coach, Falmouth Regional High School. Susan Random, paraprofessional. I don't know what those look like.
Out of district.
Out of district, okay. So yes, out of district, high school, Walpole Elementary. Nicholas Magyar, grade 4 teacher, North Walpole School. Sean Maher, music teacher, Charlestown attendance area, Walpole attendance area. Keisha Kofo, lead teacher at Charlestown Primary School. Inga Cummings, paraprofessional, Fall Mountain. Joshua Beer, social studies teacher, Fall Mountain Regional. Mary Lord, lead teacher, Charlestown Middle School. Brenda Cook, lead teacher, North Charlestown Community School. Jason Bardis, activities director, Charlestown attendance area. Jared Bobbin, boys soccer coach, Charlestown Middle School. Linda Chandler, volleyball coach, Charlestown Middle School. Sean Maher, band director, Charlestown Middle School. Karen Sheehan, drama club leader, Charlestown Middle School. Karen Sheehan, chorus director, Charlestown Middle School. I'm seeing a pattern here. Karen Sheehan, 8th grade class advisor, Charlestown Middle School. Sean Broder Stevens, recycling at Charlestown Middle School. Stephanie Haslett, student council, Charlestown Middle School. Connie Peck Saucier, yearbook advisor, Charlestown Middle School. Mary Lord, math team advisor, Charlestown Middle School. And that is it.
My fall is set.
That's right. Get them all out of the way at once.
So give a second.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Josh Beard, how come the salary is pending? He must fit on some step at Lane. So why don't we have a number here?
What is it for?
Social studies teacher, replacing Bill.
Could be that maybe Michelle didn't have a chance to meet with you on it?
We were not able to, we wanted to make sure that this nomination was brought forward, and we did not actually look and have the opportunity to discuss the final dollar. So that's why it's been.
So you don't know what his education is?
We do.
Or you don't know how long he's been in education?
We know where he's working. In fact, I bosses him in his current position. But there's also a process that we go through, and because we're not able to go through the process, the dollar amount's not in there until I confer and I put down that dollar amount and sign off.
It could be he's got educational, sometimes that happens because somebody's in a program to switch lanes.
Right.
And the lane change isn't until August. You don't have to have it in until August 20th. So I almost might bet he might be having a lane change and it's gotta be confirmed. All the credits on the transcripts have to be confirmed if they're lane change. I'm not positive, Andy, but, because I don't.
She was reading the transcripts, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I don't do it anymore, Michelle does, but usually if there's a delay, that's why.
Waiting
Get
on
that.
transcripts to what, to verify something or to,
A lane,
Official
what
transcript,
lane?
right.
Yeah, whether it's BA, BA
I
18,
can't speak for
masters.
certain, but I remember her mentioning transcripts. Because you need official transcripts for that.
all right,
Just have one.
I mean, I'll go for this, but normally I would like you to have all your ducks in a row before we approve something, especially before you hire someone. You should have all their transcripts.
Some official transcripts sometimes take a while to get here, especially at this time of year. We certainly wanted to make sure that we work with that individual and hire that person. It's at another district, and we want to make sure that everybody has the time to hire the right
No,
person. We're trying to be
Well,
gracious.
and they are right about transcripts, they do take time, depending on the time of year and stuff.
I'm sure they have a copy, it's just not got the official seal.
No, and you need the official seal. So, but, yes.
On the whole list, are there any new positions created, and are they all filled?
There are, from my understanding, there are no new positions at all in the budget. Nothing is like that. Everything else.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Next, can I get a motion for the transfers? I think it's only two, right?
If I can get through the last one, I can get through this one.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we accept the transfer of Stephanie Griffin, grade 2 teacher, Charlestown Primary School, and Chantel Fresher, transfer alt-ed teacher, Charlestown Middle School.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, approval for an overnight trip to Camp Dakota, Richmond, New Hampshire, September 13th through the 16th, 2016, for Walpole Elementary School, the 7th graders. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Approval for Falmouth Regional High School to attend the decathlon, heptathlon, June 18th through the 19th of 2016 in Nashua, New Hampshire.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Fathers everywhere love this, I
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, new policy approvals. For JI, can I get a motion for JICM, acceptable use of personally owned devices, BYOD?
So moved.
Any discussion?
If I could just real quick, just to give you a little bit of background, we've been working on these policies for quite a few months now. And at our last meeting, we had brought one of these forward, and our attorney happened to be here and said, could you send these along, we'd like to take a look at them. He has taken a look at all of them. Everything we've got here, he's put his eyes to and made a few changes here and there. So, I don't know if that helps with anybody's mind at ease, but we do have legal opinion on these as well. By the same token, or on the flip side, we're breaking new ground here. According to our IT director, there are schools all around us looking for copies of these once we approve them, because there's nothing else out there. So we're kind of breaking ground here, which is kind of cool in my mind.
So just a question, sorry. What does BYOD stand for?
Bring your own device.
Bring your own.
Yep.
I had to tell. They were great on it.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
First of all, quickly and easily, the footnotes don't make sense. BYOD is a footnote of 1, and 1 brings the other is acceptable use policies on the first page. And then on the second page, acceptable use policies is footnote number 2, and that brings you to the BYOD network.
1 second here.
The last line of the first paragraph, where it says BYOD for footnote 1.
Yeah.
You go down to the bottom of the first page, footnote 1, it's the acceptable use of the policy.
I see what you're saying.
It should, page 1 should have the first 2 footnotes taken out, and the second one, the number 1.
Yeah.
Page 2 should have the second footnote taken out, and the first one, the number 2.
Okay.
That's the easy part. Well, I'm a little confused by the policy,
Sure.
because it talks about, you can bring these into school if you have the prior approval of the principal. Definition includes a smartphone. So are you now saying that students cannot bring smartphones into school unless they have their principal's approval?
They were never supposed to.
They weren't supposed to bring them into school at all?
I mean, we never cracked down on that, but.
Because I thought that was the whole point of opening up our network, was to allow them to use.
Well,
You know what I mean?
that was, I mean, they put the clamp back on it because we didn't have good policy to regulate how they were going to use that network.
Not that I'm.
Yeah, I
just-
think it's, from what I understand, that the network has been up and down. Sometimes it's off, sometimes it's on. They're finding kids, they had found kids that were trying to hack places they shouldn't be and that kind of stuff. And they, this will help them be able to say, this is the rule, and this is what this is.
So when
what
this
we're gonna
goes into effect, no smartphones are allowed in there.
follow. No,
Unless
this goes
the
into.
principal is approved.
Right.
Now, the other question is, yes, and no iPods or anything?
I think the idea is the principals are going to approve it, but it's always, now the question is, we've always not allowed those devices like in class. They're just not allowed.
Right.
Now we're saying that as an educational tool, on a case-by-case basis, they do have value, and they may be used in class.
If I might, I don't think that they can't have their cell phones. If it's a smartphone, you can have it in your possession, but they will not let you hook to any of the wireless network here without permission.
Right, but this says, will allow students to bring technology devices to school for use in classrooms provided they have received prior approval.
Right.
So you can bring it to school, you just can't use it in the classroom.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where we've had no policy on it before,
We know.
and the lawyer kind of looked at this and said,
Okay.
it's easier to say it wasn't than now it is.
So the other question is on the second page, it talks about, are not permitted to connect to the internet through 3G, 4G, or whatever your Verizon or AT&T service provider has on the phone. So students have to shut off their cellular data.
I was gonna say, because they're always connected unless they do.
They have to physically, manually shut off their cellular data while they're in the classroom.
I believe that we have a policy in the handbooks for folks on proper usage of your own devices, okay? But this specific policy is to tell people what's appropriate or not appropriate if they're going to use our service or network in order to use that in the classroom.
But it's talking about 3G and 4G, which would be their own network.
It says
So
personally
that
owned
will be,
devices.
that will be new.
So
Correct.
my understanding is, and this is the conversation I had on several of these policies, and it's a legal conversation about must or shouldn't, can't or shouldn't, kinds of conversations. So as you look at the rest of this and we talk about not engaging in cyberbullying and, not reporting things going on in classrooms without permission and those kinds of conversations. If you say that you shouldn't be on 3G and somebody then uploads one of these videos on the 3G network, well, we didn't say you couldn't. So because our policy says no, it's an off-on switch, it's yes, no. We've said no, you went and did it anyhow, now we have teeth to discipline.
But,
because we've said that.
but here we're telling personally owned devices must access the internet via the district's content filtered wireless network.
Right.
But if we're trying to get away, if we're having issues with them on our network and we're not allowing them to have access to the network because we're having issues with the network.
No, but we're going to now. It's not that we've had issues with the network.
Is this something we can police is my question?
Yes.
If they're on the network, but you're gonna have to check everybody's cell phone to make sure they're not on 3G or 4G. And I guess I get what we're trying to do, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate here.
Yep.
that If you can't police it and enforce it on a day-to-day basis, and you can only enforce it when you find it, I don't think it's right. Because some kids are gonna get away with it and others aren't. And that's my only concern, and I also know throughout the day, kids have cell phones on them at lunchtime, whether it be to connect with the parent, to say pick me up, or, you know what I mean, or I got practice after school, or, you know, it's become a way of communicating other than going down to the office and picking up the phone.
And my understanding about this is that to the extent that we're trying to teach personal responsibility to students, and we have a code of conduct, what we're saying is, this is our expectation. And students who violate that expectation, depending on, you know, it's like, speed limit's 55. Some people will go 60 and 65, and some people will get caught, some people won't get caught. But the expectation is that you knew the speed limit was 55. The expectation here is that you will not connect to 3G or 4G. Will some do? Yes. And if they do it to contact their parents, picking up after school, do we care? I don't know.
Well,
But-
they can't, so we have to care, and that's what I'm saying to you.
And I agree with you, but the lawyer tells me that it's the can't that has to happen. Because if you give any gray
Well, I'm
area
not
there, then there's no
disagreeing
way
with
that we can police. And the can't is the personal responsibility. Just like you can't go more than 55 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. You know,
That's the question. Walking around the hallway with a cell phone, until Heidi says, let me see your cell phone, you have no way of knowing what network it's on.
Well, I guess to me, how can you, I don't know how you can tell someone they can't use a service that they pay for. I mean, they pay for their 3G and 4G service. So, and it's their personal property. It's not like it's our computers or our cell phones or, you know, where you can dictate things.
But I think you're right, and that's why what this policy is saying is that if you're bringing your own device and you're connecting to the district's network, then these policies will apply.
I just think we're really bordering on that edge of violating someone's rights to be able to use their device. I mean,
That's the misconception. They don't have rights until we give them rights. It's just like,
everybody has
you know,
rights.
kids have a license and can drive a car when? If they have permission, if it's registered, if it's inspected, they can lose that privilege very quickly if they cause a problem.
And I specifically asked the question about whether we plug into this building, you know, devices that will shut down a 3G and 4G network. They exist. We can make this a black hole. And
Although you
that's,
might have kids here till midnight.
They do exist and you can do it, but there is some legal cases right now that that's illegal.
right, but I'm just saying,
They're jammers.
the technology is out there. and the-
Absolutely.
And so, but that facilitated the ability to ask the question and say, what we need to teach here is personal responsibility.
But why did this, I guess, what brought this forward? What has happened to make this, I mean, the kids, I
I
mean,
think what they're finding now is, because of the system we have in place, the IT department can tell you who's on the guest network
right.
and where they're going and what they're surfing and what time of day. We know who's already violating the policy as it is now, but without a bring your own device policy in place, there's nothing to police. So they just shut down the network.
I wouldn't police somebody else's 3G or 4G because that's their business.
But you can't police the 3G or 4G. But if you don't put that in there, then you have no teeth when you realize that somebody is bullying somebody else and they use the 4G network and not our 3G network. So we've said,
Yeah.
it does, but this helps. kind of box it in.
I better understand the condition of these devices in class. Can we have an example of how distracted they are and what this is trying to bring to focus?
I think ultimately the question is coming up about how, and this is kind of a broader question, what do we do with our one-to-one as they are getting older? And I think where the district wants to move this to is to say, so many people want to bring their own devices because they have better devices or devices that more suit them than what the district is providing in one-to-one, that it will better benefit the district if 50, 60, 70, 80% of the kids bring a device that they feel comfortable with, taking notes on, referencing the internet, doing the things that they're doing with their one-to-one device. So I think that's why we, if we want to bring this in, we're probably going to need to tweak it, the regulations will have to be tweaked, so on and so forth, but we need to start somewhere to say, as a district, we want to move to letting people who want to buy a MacBook or who want to buy an iPad or whatever, can bring their own device.
That seems to be a very different conversation than what we've been sitting on with cell phones. We can understand how distracting cell phones are, especially in a class setting, because it would have to be controlled. And I absolutely support this because, you shut it down. You are in class and you will learn. And it is clear how simple it is to beat these systems. If your policy needs teeth, then we must give it teeth. But the students will sit there and they will not be caught. And if this is the only way to get it, that we can see which device is on the network and go find them in class and remind them that there is a policy, I think it's a good step forward. But no, to police it is unpoliceable in this term.
Well, I don't have a problem with our network. I don't have an issue with that. My issue is when you're touching someone's personal network and you get them to shut down their network every time they walk through the door. I mean, I don't even know how to shut mine down.
So you're proposing
My problem is
to let them have their computers and cell phones and have free reign and be held accountable?
on their own 3G, 4G network, on their computer, on their cell phone. That is their plan. It has nothing to do with us. They don't access our network to get to that. They go through Verizon, US Cellular, whoever they have to get to that.
Which, yes.
That's what
Why do they have a right for it during our class time?
Well, I guess I don't know. Like I said, that's just my personal.
Is the 4G better than the network offered here?
Not up here. No.
What is the desire? So that they can work outside the boundaries?
Yeah, so they can hide something. That would be the only reason.
But
And
that's
have no
not true.
filters.
That's not true, not just to use it to hide
If it's not,
things.
if it's not for a faster network, then what is it for?
Why don't we stop thinking of kids as being these bad people? To say they're using it for outside sources to do something wrong is not always true. I mean, they could be using it for any reason. We don't know that because we're not those kids. I can't sit here and say the 500 kids in this school are using their 3G, 4G. Every one of them is using it for the wrong reason.
Well, right now you can't because.
And I can't, and I don't want to, because that's their 3G, 4G network. I don't have a problem with our network. Protecting our network is one thing, but to tell them they can't use something that their parents or they pay for personally, even at the age of 18 if they're in here, I don't think we can do that.
It's as simple as your class valedictorian who's never done anything wrong, turns off their Wi-Fi on their cell phone and say battery life, comes into school, forgets the Wi-Fi's turned off, now I'm accessing the internet with a 4G, and I'm in trouble.
And I just have a problem with that. We have a problem with that. I understand accessing the internet through our filter. I get that, because that is something that we can control, we can monitor. We cannot monitor someone's 3G, 4G network. You can't do it. That's
Well, in
what I
fact, there is,
found
the only way that it could be monitored is if somebody has, in my mind, the only reason this comes into play is when somebody's done something wrong.
out. But I guess what,
Because
again,
you're right, the kid who shut off his Wi-Fi to save his battery and is now on 4G, and it stays in his pocket all day, there's no way for anybody here to monitor that, because it's not even on our network. The only way that comes up is can you believe what Johnny was watching on?
Have we talked in the past, though, about how we feel we should empower people? This is not empowering them. This is putting more rules on them, which doesn't give them the ability to make their choices. We're telling them, if you don't do this, we're going to make the choice for you. And to me, we need to empower these kids a little bit, too. Common sense does come into play a lot.
But this doesn't
And I
play any
don't
different
want-
than in business.
Why?
Yeah.
We all have our cell phones on in business. That's what I do.
What we're trying to do is put some guidelines for students, so students are able to bring their own
It's not a
devices.
guideline.
And by doing that, we're asking them to follow these guidelines. And one is, if you're going to use your iPhone during school time to do your research or your work instead of using your laptop, then you really need to be on our network server, so it can be monitored. It's no different than if you took your laptop at that time.
It's
If you
not
choose
the same.
not to do that, then yes, just keep your iPhone in your pocket and don't use it during school time. What we're trying to do is allow students to bring their own devices and have some parameters in what they think with those devices. Make sure that students are safe.
So maybe, Mary, if I'm hearing you correctly, we may be able to tweak the wording in this to make it more clear. What we're saying is that personally owned devices used in school for, just let me brainstorm
Yep,
this out.
that's fine.
For educational purposes. This policy is about the use of your own device kind of in place of your one-to-one. So I think you're right, and I apologize I didn't pick this up sooner, but the kid sitting in the cafeteria who's talking to mom, that's not an educational use. So you're right, that has no business.
I mean, that's all I'm trying to say to you, John.
But
I'm
if
not
you
saying,
say-
I get what you're getting at, and I completely understand. When you're in class, no, they shouldn't be surfing the internet on their phones. But what this basically says is anyone who has it on in this school, if you're stopped for any reason, and I want to see
No,
the
no, no.
form for whatever.
Because we may need to say that personally owned devices used for educational purposes in school are not permitted to connect to the internet through 3G or 4G.
Right. And that I do not have an issue with.
That
We
may
need
fix our
to,
problem.
right, we need to monitor what they're doing on our servers and direct them to our servers. I get that.
Can you snip that in? I don't know that I can, but I'll try. Personally owned devices.
Read it back to you, he's taping it.
What?
You can read it back to you.
Personally owned devices used in school for educational purposes are not permitted to connect to the internet through 3G or 4G.
In that case, if our network's down for some reason and they need to connect and they have permission, that's different.
Because I really think that's the point of what, that was the point of what I was trying to say, is that.
Okay. I understand that. That I don't have a problem. Now, you've got that.
Sorry about that.
No, I just, like I said, I don't have an issue, and we gotta also fix the two bottom.
Yep,
Okay, is there anything else?
we'll get those fixed for a second.
Under the point of second page, third paragraph, the district reserves the right to monitor and inspect that paragraph.
Yep.
What is the threshold on that, and do we feel that it's fair enough in practice?
I'm not sure I'm following the question.
To copy, monitor, inspect, search, copy, seize, and review a personally owned device or file. The threshold for an administrator or a district official to seize, and Mary has raised the point, and stop any student at any time in the hallway and demand to see your phone. So what's the threshold?
What's
I
considered?
guess I would have to ask the lawyer what reasonable suspicion means.
Local law or school policies.
But I mean, and again, I'm not,
I'm sure there's a legal definition of what that, just like, you wouldn't search a locker without reasonable suspicion that somebody had drugs in it. So I don't know what that is, but, or how you put a percentage on that or what have you, but if that helps. But I think it's kind of a
I was gonna say, yeah, realism is a legal standard approved in the United States law that is less than probable cause legal standard for arrests and warrants, but more than,
Preponderance of evidence?
Or an unparticularized suspicion of the punch. It must be based on specific and actual, really spelled today, real facts together, taken together. So you basically have to have something.
So preponderance of evidence is more than 50%, and the only reasonable doubt, I think, is 70%. So it's going to fall somewhere in the middle there. You can't just randomly grab somebody's phone. You have to have
You have to have a reason.
pretty good reason. So,
Are search warrants usually required? And how are you gonna copy myself?
you maybe can't. That's why the devices and/or files. Right, so you're right that they could seize the device, they could copy the file, they could search the phone. They can't copy the phone.
So the student is required, the student is required to give access.
It's the same, most of us have passwords on our phones.
If you want to bring your device in instead of using the school's device, these are the rules. And yes, we would agree upfront to allowing access.
And that's somewhere.
Well, the point of passing the policy is to be able to draw up the sign-off sheet for the handbook in the fall. We're going to say, if you're bringing your device to school, this is what you're agreeing to. I think that's the other thing too, is that you don't have to agree to this. You don't have to bring your device in.
It's a choice.
Okay, did you have any other concerns? You all set? Any other discussions? No? Then can I get a motion to accept the policy as amended? Any discussions on that? Dave, you want to say something? No?
Secretary on ground here. You're talking about personal property.
I don't disagree with you, but
I understand.
But we're also not telling you that you have to. I would agree with you if we said, we're not providing any one-to-one devices and you're required to bring something in from home. Then I absolutely agree with you. You're requiring me to bring something at home, then you have no business requiring me to hand over this information. What we're saying is, if you want to bring your device in from home, these are the rules. You don't have to bring your device in.
Can you seize a student's car if you suspect something wrong?
Well, I can tell you firsthand experience that you can have one freaking towed. Which is, I was pretty happy.
I would say the answer to that is yes.
That recently or when you were?
No, my
You know-
son.
You know, I'm going to throw this out there for anybody that's sitting around this table if they want. I really, I would like a little more time to digest it. I'm really concerned about, I mean, I understand computers, I understand things like that, but there's just certain things that nowadays, to me, a cell phone is your personal property, just like your car keys. You know, but we don't say you can't have your car keys in here, you know, or you can't, you know, I mean, it just, I don't know,
But again, it's a conversation about.
there's certain,
Conversation about, do you bring your, you don't, if you want to bring your device in to do this, then these are the rules that you follow. So we're not making you bring your device in to do this.
Heidi, maybe you could tell us what the current standard is here at the high school.
Okay,
If a
good.
student has his cell phone out and he's calling somebody or currently, what do you do?
The general policy is during class time, the phones are not being used in class, unless they have teacher permission, they're using them for a specific purpose. Example might be a kid wants to take some pictures of their project, or they want to, they want to do something specific with their device. They would or put something in a reminder for, I have a project with them. That's the general rule. if the student has it out, and is a distraction and the teacher has asked them to put it away and they don't, the teacher takes it and returns it at the end of the class period. If the student refuses to give the phone to the teacher, the reasonable request to give the phone, then they're sent to me and they give it to me for the rest of the day. And, I mean, there are some other, situations that may pop up, so, and that's, in general, that's that we use.
And the lower grades, the only exception to that is if the student is using the phone and it's out during the time, they're supposed to be off in our building, and if it rings, like, I often am standing at a locker saying, the locker is ringing. If it rings, so it's obviously not off, or if it disrupts in some way, I get it, and an adult has to come pick it up. It does not get given back to the student.
Yeah, if I get it a second time, then they have to come before or after school, the parent has to come before or after school to pick it up. And I've had a couple cases where that's the case.
I have 2 phones on my desk right now.
And what we're trying to do with this policy is putting some parameters for students who do use their cell phone and with teachers' permission during the school day. There are students that really are quicker on the cell phone to look up internet information than they are in the laptop. And with teachers' permission to use it, we're asking them to follow these basic procedures.
Our guest network is off during the school day. Our guest network is not turned on during the school day. It's only on after school, from like 2:30 to, I think, 7. It's on, and then it goes off at 7 and turns back on.
So if you're going to be using your iPhone or another device
If
during
they're-
the school
if-
day to access
If they're,
instructional material,
Yep.
then you need to abide by the policy and be on our school network and abide by the procedures that were.
well, they wouldn't be able to hook to our school network.
They will.
With their
With
device.
this policy,
With the
there's
policy,
going to actually be a
that's
Well-
BYOD network.
But not to the school network, to the guest network.
No, it's not.
No,
It's off.
Right, but with this policy, the guest network would be turned on, and they would have access to that.
That's why
They wouldn't have access to
Right.
the servers and such that are on our private networks.
You would create a new network.
Yes.
Well, we have it already, we're just not using it during the day.
Different than the guest network.
It's
No, no.
different. No,
This
it
is the BYOD.
It's going to be a BYOD network. We're going to have a guest network and a BYOD network.
Oh, okay.
And we didn't want it on the school network because of viruses and
Oh, security and sorts of
But
things.
it would still be monitored by our network system here with firewalls and stuff.
What is the cost?
There's really no additional cost because we've already planned for this. I mean, their networks are there, the fiber is there. From what I know, there's no need for any additional equipment or anything else.
When we set up the network for one-to-one, it came with so much bandwidth that it's just a matter of partitioning it off to separate out who gets on which network and then who has access to which resources.
Is there any concern for future security? Say we had hacking attempts by students in the future, will we need greater firewalls? Is that the expectation, or will we be able to have it?
I think we'll be fine. Because it's a separate network, they won't have access to any of our files, they won't have access to student records or anything that we keep on our own servers. Yeah, it's all,
That's all separate
a
anyway.
whole separate network.
That's not a.
That's the network that we connect to with this. They would be on a separate network, and I didn't realize it was even a third network that John Republic can connect to when he's in for a basketball game.
Servers and networks are attacked all the time, nonstop.
Right.
By bots, by people attempting to gain access. Your firewalls, hopefully you bought one that's upgradable, and the updates keep it ahead of what comes.
I believe the one we have here comes from Dell SecureWorks, and it's a pretty robust system. It's the one we use at the bank. So, good enough for bank, and it should be good enough for the bank.
discussion? Okay, all those in favor of JIC and accept the use of personal owned devices, BYOD?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Two noes and 4 yeas. Okay. Moving on to, can I have a motion for policy KB, FMR, SD, social media websites?
So moved.
Thank you.
You lost me after KD. I'm like, where are those other others coming? Oh, it's titled.
I was gonna say, it's there. This is on
Policy
my-
KD.
Okay.
Elementary school site.
Can I get a second? Okay, any discussion on this one?
So again, this is one that the lawyer has taken a look at and actually helped craft the language in this one quite a bit. And basically what we're saying is that we have a whole lot of websites. Anybody can generate a website, anybody can generate a social media page, what have you. But we need to be able to control what the official message is. And so this policy will help set out the expectation to say this is an official policy. There is no way to stop a spoofed policy, but we believe that in setting up the parameters for what the official policy looks, what the official pages look like, that I even had talked to Lynn about it. You know, we may go so far as to list all of our official web pages off of our official web page. So all the sports teams, all the everybody. If it's an official page, you go to Hallmark's website, click on the sports team's page. You know that's the right page. And if you kind of get anywhere else out there, you travel at your own risk because we don't know if the information is good enough. There's no way for us to monitor that. But since we had nothing at all, this at least allows us to set up the criteria for monitoring our own stuff. And it allows for us to set this up in such a way that is, as people come and go, you know, there are other administrators who have access to pages who can reassign, you know, rights to administer those pages, and it makes it a more fluid and continuous process.
Any more discussion or any questions?
I would say as a point of view on the district website, that rebuild and the information down there has been very helpful. It's a nice little small website. It's a
Bringing us a lot of work into that.
very nice platform.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment policies for approval. Can I get a motion for BIA, new board member orientation for second reading?
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I get a motion for GBEBD, employee use of educational social networking for first reading?
So moved.
So that's a good one this week. Any discussion? Yeah, second was over there, yeah. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I get a motion for EHAA, computer security, email, and internet communications for first reading?
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I have a motion for the treasurer's report? Andy?
Yep, I move we accept the treasurer's report as presented.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have anything for other? Yes.
Just a comment on last Saturday, we had the CDC finals here, the track meet, and generally 800 plus students and their student athletes and their families. Just a notable part of the day, of course, Rick Elliott put so much work into it, and he's a very good program, especially the professionalism from the other coaches and their student athletes was a level above this year. But I'd like to note Ron LeClaire as facilities here, and it's just an impressive dedication to the job. He was out there that morning, started with the javelin at 8:15 to be thrown by 9. And it had rained the night before, so Ron had come back after the rain and restriped the shot put pit. He had re-rigged all of the jumping pits, and he was just doing a final loop around. And his comment to me was, the athletes care so much about this day, and he wanted to be sure that he did too. He takes great care of our facilities here. I'd like to thank him.
If I could just, follow that up a little bit, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but he's the most valuable employee for the post office. He does amazing stuff with the ground, very limited resources.
We agree.
Just an amazing, amazing human being.
I want to tell you that when we interviewed him for the position, it was the first year in all the years I worked here that we had 4 amazing candidates at the same time. Oh my God, they were all just awesome. But you know, our position is to always, and we had 2 that were local, you know, so our position is to try to hire local, you know, keep the money within the community. So yeah, he's one of our local ones. It's good to see when they go from the stage. You know? So.
Okay, was that a regular meeting or was that a unified meeting?
No, that
It was not a unified meeting. The week before, there was a unified long, which makes for a long chocolate day.
It does, but I
you know,
gotta tell you,
it's phenomenal.
I got to watch a unified meeting, and I was not only impressed with the quality of the athletes, but I was impressed by the quality of the staff from all the schools that came together to pull that piece together. I mean, it's, I'm so proud of this district, and I think Oregon really deserves some kudos for having pushed this forward.
And it's getting there all around. It's starting to finally come together. This is the second year I think we've done the unifieds. And we've had them at every meeting we've had at home, except for the CBCs, because we do the prelims and then we have North and South, and then we do the CBCs. But I will say it's a work in progress still, but they're getting there. You know, Keane's working on it. They're all working on doing their stuff through direct athletics too, because it's becoming so big now. Their teams aren't small anymore, so we've got 20 kids. And that's a lot, you know, and to have to, before we were hand typing everybody's name in, whereas now we're starting to do it electronically and stuff, and it's great to see the kids because they love it, especially when they come to the finish line. It's awesome. Everybody cheers them on. It's just awesome. That's the benefit of track. It's for everybody.
Do you have anything for non-public? Yes, I do. Under contracts.
Okay. So can I get a motion to go into non-public for contracts?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Linda?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm running soft.
I have a question for you.
Oh, thank you.